Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Infamous Second Son. I played it on the PS5 through backwards compatibility. It's also available on the PS4. So let's get into the story. You play as Delsin Rowe. He is a member of the inFAMOUS tribe. They live in Salmon Bay. And things go horribly wrong when a group of conduits roll through. One of them is very wanted, and, well, the DUP comes after them, a group that is designed by the government to control the conduits. Their leader, Augustine, is a stone-cold bitch, and she puts basically concrete shards through everyone's legs until they give her what she wants. Unfortunately, they don't. During an altercation, Delsin Rowe learns that he can absorb conduit powers, and that is his conduit power. Well, he sets out on a quest to save the inFAMOUS. Fortunately for him, his brother comes along with him, a cop who more level-headed than Delsin. And where are they going? They're going to Seattle to try and sort all this out. And I gotta say, overall, I really enjoyed the story. I think the storytelling in this game is really well done. And it does have that infamous element of, the morality system going on, whether it's utilized in combat, you can subdue enemies, or, you can kill them. But there are also times where you can make decisions. And I gotta say, I'm happy with the story. Now let's get into the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is voiceover work is fantastic throughout the game. It's a top-notch cast, bringing the characters to life. They do a really good job. As for the sound effects, I think the sound effects are all very well done in the game, especially for the different powers. They do an awesome job for each of the unique powers that you experience throughout the game. As well as just around the city, they make it feel alive. They make it feel like a real place. Unfortunately, the music in this game, it's utterly forgettable. If it wasn't there, I don't think it would make a difference. So that's kind of disappointing. Now let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is a third-person superhero action game in an open world. And it has the open world trope of the time of you go into an area, you complete certain objectives, you take over the area. In this situation, you're clearing out the DUP agents and making it safer for you to travel. But also part of that is the collectibles, which are the core shards, which allow you to power up and enhance your abilities. Now, as I mentioned, you do get multiple powers. The first one you get is smoke, after that you get neon, and after that you get digital, I guess you'd call it. Each of them are very similar, but they do have their own unique things. Like, for heavy attacks, the digital was the best in my opinion, especially against bosses because it's very focused, but like the heavy attack of smoke is great for groups, and then neon is great for travel, and it makes it way easier to, either kill or subdue enemies. So I think they did a good job with that. I mean, you can run around with just one of the powers as much as you want, and it's really not a problem. You're not going to find yourself completely screwed over if you don't switch to digital at this time or smoke at this time. And I think the way they do that is actually really cool because there are smokestacks around the city, and that's how you absorb smoke. But if you want to switch to neon, you go and absorb from a neon sign, and digital, you go and absorb from electronics. I just think that was a clever thing to do. Delsin is a street artist, which comes into play because you can do graffiti in the game. It's not like the biggest thing in the game, but you can do it, and it's actually really cool, and I think the way they do it is very cool, which that'll bleed a bit into the controls, but it actually uses the sensors in the PlayStation 4 and PS5 controller, so you spray paint, but you're aiming up and down and moving the controller around to spray paint, and I thought that was a clever way of doing things. The game isn't super long and the map isn't super huge, so the fact that the side missions are pretty similar across the board isn't as punishing as it could be. It's not like you're dealing with a 200-mile map with 50,000 things, but they're all the exact same thing. I mean, you are doing basically the same thing, but it's few enough in number and over a small enough map that it doesn't feel like it's beating you down. And honestly, I appreciate that. And now I'm going to say something that's probably going to sound a little crazy coming from me of all people, but it doesn't have a New Game Plus, and I'm not upset about it. The reason I'm not upset about it is because it's easy enough to upgrade all of your powers. You can do it within a timely manner. You can upgrade everything you've got before you beat the game. Maybe that would feel unbalanced, but they actually do a good job keeping it balanced even once you've done that. So oddly enough, I'm going to say this game doesn't need a New Game Plus, which, yeah, that's weird coming out of my mouth. Now let's get into the controls, and I'm going to say I think they're good. I really like the way they're mapped out, I like the way they function, and I think Infamous Second Son does a good job using the unique features of the PS4 and PS5 controller in my case. You push down on the touchpad to drain neon or digital or smoke. There are certain objectives where you'll swipe on it or you'll push down and hold up on it. It's really cool, and as I mentioned, they use the motion controller of it in order to do like the spray paint. I just think that was well done, but they don't force you to do that shit in combat and try and make it weird and awkward. Now last but not least, the graphics and visuals. And the first thing I'm going to say is it's kind of a mixed bag. And what I mean by that is it hasn't aged great. The textures aren't amazing. The realism that they were going for and looked so good at the time doesn't look as good now. And there are a few other things that I'm not entirely in love with. Like the lighting can be a little ugh. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just a little too red or a little too dark at the time, and it can make some of the things a little difficult to deal with. Like when you're trying to do the spray painting, but the lighting is just shit, and it can make it hard to know exactly where you're spraying. It's not every time, but there are enough times where it's a little weird. And as I mentioned, they went for hyper-realism, and at the time, I remember it looking great. It doesn't hold up as well now. But on the other side, things that do hold up well now are like the capturing of the facial expressions and the facial expressions on the characters. They did a great job with that. Like the facial motion is really well done and capturing of the performances, fantastic. But then you also have the city. The city looks really good. It looks like a real city, and the lighting, while it can be a pain doing some things, it's really neat in some situations. Or at night, if you have the neon powers running around with that and how it lights up is really well done, and it's cool. But that really leads me into the powers, which that's probably the coolest visual element of this game. Each of the powers looks so unique visually, and they do such an awesome job bringing them all to life. The smoke has this kind of flowness to it, and like the neon is very sharp and just aggressive, and the digital is, I don't even know how to describe that one really. But it is cool, and I like what they did making each very visually unique, as well as I liked the design of the characters. I think they did an awesome job there. The DUP feels every bit as authoritarian as they need to. Delsin's graffiti really kind of fits his personality, and what he does with it is really cool. But even just showing off if you choose the good or the evil paths, like the difference on Delsin's vest. Like the image on the back of his vest changes as you make those decisions. So like I said, it is really a mixed bag when it comes to the visuals, but if you're not like live or die on visuals, it's very easy to get past that. So to wrap this up, it was a really good game. I had forgotten how good it was. I had forgotten some story beats. Obviously, I have played this before. You can tell by the way I'm talking about it. And I gotta say, I enjoyed it. It was really fun to go back and replay. I think it's totally worth going back and replaying this game. Or playing it for the first time if you've never played it before. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, did you enjoy the first Infamous game? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.